directing you, Mayor.
Okay, it's 5 o'clock. You good? So we'd like to welcome everybody to Santa Clara City Council. We appreciate you being here. I'm Mayor Rick Rosenberg. We have a full city council here tonight. Councilman Ben Shakespeare, Councilwoman Lena Mathis, Councilman Jarrett Waite, Councilman Denny Drake, and Councilman Wendell Gubler are all here, so appreciate their attendance. We'd like to begin the meeting with an opening ceremony and pledge of allegiance. We've asked Councilman Gubler to lead us in that. Would everyone please rise and salute the flag?
Please repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our dear Father in heaven, we're grateful this evening for the opportunity of being here at this Santa Clara City Council. We're grateful for the beautiful city that we are living in and for the wonderful people that we're rubbing shoulders with on a daily basis. We ask that Thou would bless our staff, that they might continue to perform well and do the things that will help us to keep this city beautiful and to keep us in a friendly atmosphere. We're thankful for them and for all that they do. We ask that Thou would help us as we make decisions tonight, that we might be wise in those decisions and do those things that be best for the city. And we say this in the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Wendell. We do have a couple of appearances tonight. I'm going to go with Chief Hansey first. We got a new firefighter to introduce. He's not new.
No, you might know Mark Youngberg. I just wanted to introduce him to the mayor and council. He is their newest full-time firefighter, and he's a firefighter engineer and advanced EMT. So this is that position that we requested, and I just wanted to show you a face with the person that is taking that position. And Mark, how long have you been with the department?
Since 2006.
So about 15 years.
He's been around a while.
And we're happy to have him. He's a great addition to the department, full-time staff. And so we're very pleased that we're able to get that position and have him with us. You want to say anything, Mark?
Just grateful for the opportunity to be full-time with the department, for the city that has helped me get into firefighting, and just be able to spend more time giving back to the community. So appreciate it.
Great. Well, welcome aboard full time now.
Thank you.
We appreciate the work you've done over the years too, Mark.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks, Chief. Second item is I've asked Dennis Levitt to come. I sent everybody an email about the United We Pledge Constitution Day. They're trying to coordinate Constitution Day ceremonies across the county for September 17th. I sent a copy of the program that St. George City was looking at, and we've done a little bit of research. The building is available, and we've kind of set that aside. Dennis is a good friend. And Dennis, go ahead and explain to the council the program and what you're intending or would like to do.
Right. I'm the Vice President of Public Relations for a St. George-based company called Balance of Nature. You may have heard ads on the radio. We advertise nationally. We are also the funding partner of a nonprofit organization called United We Pledge. We're like your council. We start all of our staff meetings with a prayer and a pledge of allegiance. We do so unashamedly. And at Balance of Nature, we want to continue to be a voice for America, for what we stand for as American, and we want to continue to promote, again, unashamedly faith, family, and freedom and traditional American values. We know there are other people with opposing voices. That's okay with us. We're just going to be a voice on behalf of America and the Constitution especially. September 17th is Constitution Day. It's the day the Constitution was signed. Few Americans pay attention that day, and so we're trying to raise awareness. We've partnered with the Daughters of the American Revolution, who ring bells across America every September 17th at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Mayors from around the county have signed, proclamations that are read in council meetings typically. Balance of Nature, as the funding partner of United We Pledge, wants to do more and more in order to bring awareness, like we said. So we've worked with Hurricane City, Washington City, St. George City. All of the mayors are on board. Now we're here hoping that your city council and Mayor Rosenberg, that you'd be willing to join on board with those entities. We've also reached out to Ivans and to Tokerville, waiting on their responses. But the event is going to be a 1.5 hour program in essence. We're happy to provide Daughters of American Revolution or United We Pledge members. We're happy to provide and help with choirs if you don't have any, but it's a simple 1.5 hour program that ends with a bell ringing. There's not a better place maybe in Washington County to ring bells at 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Constitution Day than Santa Clara Town Hall. We hope that that can happen. We're going to have a full video team so that we do a live feed. We advertise on national TV and national radio. We have hundreds of thousands of customers of ours who want to participate. So we're going to do a live event and try and spread it out as many media ways as we can, again, to raise awareness. We'll provide anything from flags to Constitution copies. We'd give everyone a pocket copy of the Constitution. We'd do anything we could to help residents of Santa Clara feel like Constitution Day was legitimate and valuable. It's a day off of school because of Ironman. So we know that this year we can't do a lot to help the children or the youth interact a lot, but we will in future years. And our vision is to have Constitution Day become Constitution Week, which is celebrated in many states across the US, but there's no Constitution Week activities in Utah at all. So we want to hold a Constitution Week in Utah for the US Constitution and a Constitution Week in Utah for the Utah Constitution. And currently there's no state of the union that holds a Constitution Day on the day their state's constitution was signed. We believe that's important. So we're willing to fund it. We're not asking for any money. All we're asking for is kind of support of the city to rally around in the county, and we'll make a big splash. United We Pledge has a 1, 3, and a 5-year plan that has some pretty remarkable things coming for education for elementary and middle school children. We have a campus that's planned to be built to reconstruct the American Village campus in Alabama. Again, we've got major plans. This is a first step forward. And then that night on September 17th, we're also going to be part of the opening ceremonies of the Dixie Roundup, and we're going to bring in the Constitution and bell ringers there. And we're going to do all we can to make Constitution Day recognizable. We're going to be defenders of the Constitution, and we know there are some who aren't. We're going to be some who are. That's my story.
Council, I've reached out to the Boy Scout troop and asked them if they'd be willing to help us since they're out of school that day. Probably reach out to the Cubs as well. Is this something that you can support as a council? Probably be a short ceremony here at Town Hall at 2 o'clock on the
September 17th is a Friday.
I would encourage all the council to come and participate in that. And if you guys are okay with it, we'll start working on a program with Dennis and his group and see if we can get as many people, especially the youth, involved as we can. Since they're out of school, they can come down here and help ring the bells, and maybe you can program a nice patriotic song to go at the 2 o'clock ringing. So is that a yes?
Yes.
Okay, Dennis.
Awesome.
Let's go to
Thank you so
work.
much. And again, just for sake of time, 1:30, if the program starts then, it will sync live with the rest of the cities in Washington County. And if the bells go off at 2, then it will sync live with everyone if it's a half hour scheduled.
Perfect.
Okay.
Okay. We'll
Thank
be in
you.
touch.
Thanks
Thank
a lot.
you. Okay. Any other communications and appearances? Anyone who's come to address council tonight that's not part of an agenda item? Move into conflicts and disclosures. Council, is there anything on the agenda tonight that may cause a conflict of interest with any of you? I need to disclose a couple of them. The firm I'm employed with did the lot split survey for Reggie Gates, item number 4. And we're also working on utility master planning for the Black Desert Resort. So those 2 things I need to disclose. So anybody got anything? Okay, we'll go ahead and move into the working agenda. There are no public hearings scheduled for tonight. On the consent agenda, we've got approval of the claims and minutes from July 28th, 2021, August 11th, 2021, and the claims through August 25th. We've also got the calendar of events that you can read at your leisure there. The biggest item would be Swiss Days is fastly coming, September 23rd to the 25th. So is there any question on the consent agenda? Any items on the consent agenda? If not, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Got a motion by Jarrett and a second by Denny to approve the consent agenda as presented. Any question on that motion? Is a money item. Roll call vote. All in favor, Ben?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Item C1 is consider approval of a cooperative agreement between Santa Clara, Utah and SPIN for the operation of electric scooters in the public right of way. Council, I forwarded an email that came from SPIN, and Alex and her team are here, and I'd go ahead and invite them to come on up and let them go through the presentation. This is regarding SPIN scooters within the community. St. George has got an agreement. Washington's just put one in place. Is that right? I'll let them go ahead and go into detail. I did forward it to Matt. So when the time comes, we can go to him for an opinion on it, but go ahead and introduce your team, please.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alex April, and I'm the head of government partnerships for SPIN.
And my name's Otto Milicevic. I am the general manager for Utah.
Great.
And, let me, oh, you want me to, okay.
Go ahead.
Perfect.
You
Well,
got
hey,
the floor.
awesome. Thank you so much. Well, appreciate all of you taking the time this evening. So last year, we went through the RFP competitive permitting process with the city of St. George and won an exclusive agreement to operate electric scooters. And so from there, working really closely with Sean Guzman and Mark Mortensen within St. George. And, you know, it was really their vision and our vision to be able to expand the e-scooter service to the whole region. So not just the city of St. George. And if I take a step back also, I should mention that we were founded in 2017. We're a subsidiary of Ford Motor Company. And so because of that, we really are investing in our team here. We have a warehouse in St. George, and we only hire in-house W-2 employees for operations. So meaning that all of these folks are getting paid above the living wage, are getting benefits, medical, all of that included. But, you know, from a perspective of, you know, a city, it also makes our team be able to be more responsive to relocation requests or any other types of requests or questions because we have folks who are on the clock rather than utilizing a contractor 1099 model. And so we're in 80 cities and universities across the world, and including here in Utah, we're in Orem, Ogden. We just won through a competitive process in Salt Lake City as well. So we're really wanting to expand our reach. The main reason why we're coming to you all is, again, kind of that regional approach to bringing scooters. Otto can speak to this more, but we've had a lot of folks who, you know, maybe have used scooters within St. George, and so are opening the app in Santa Clara, hoping to see if they can take one of those scooters and to go around this area or to another jurisdiction, but currently do not. And a big reason for that is because we don't launch without permission. We want to make sure that we're doing this in a really careful, concise way in partnership with cities. And so I had sent over previously, you know, a proposed deployment map. This is something that we're very open to changing if there are areas where we should geofence so that folks can't park their scooters, where they can't ride, or maybe they need to go slower than the 15 miles an hour, which is kind of the industry standard. So I think, you know, really that covers it. Is we're seeing folks wanting to use them, and especially with Ironman coming up, I know there's going to be a lot of folks coming in a couple of weeks, as well as in the future with future competitions, and just want to make sure that we're giving folks an alternate mode of transportation to alleviate congestion as well.
Right. Council, any questions?
Probably the big question that comes up every time is just the
the maintenance of it, the pickup, what time, obviously the concerns are, they get left on sidewalks, things like that. So if you wouldn't mind just maybe briefing us on that.
Yeah, of course. So we operate 24/7 with staff really working around the clock using company vans. The scooters also do come with a text number that's on the side of the scooter that anybody can text, and we respond typically within an hour to any relocation requests, pickup requests, anything like that. But throughout the day and night, the team is out there moving scooters around, picking them up, deploying them, and when needed, taking them back to the warehouse to fix.
One thing that I would like to just add on there is that folks are available to report if a scooter is not working, but our team also proactively is checking scooters as well to make sure that they are working properly. So every time they touch a scooter, they're making sure that everything looks okay. But additionally, every few miles, we take it in to have a trained in-house mechanic also take a more in-depth look at the scooter as well.
The map in the presentation, I don't know if you can go to that, Brock, has some proposed deployment locations. Those are ones that you kind of come up with based on the app or feedback that you receive.
Correct. Based on the app opens, meaning just users are opening the app, we're able to track the location of that. These are areas where we see it more than other areas. Like Alex mentioned, we are open to changing this around based on your feedback or suggestions. And then also, this isn't necessarily something that will be the deployment map as and if we are able to launch, that would then change based on the ridership and demand.
For the geofencing, do you have the ability to let us go outside of what may be our city boundaries? For example, 400 East and Ivans is a road that might get utilized because it gets us to part of our trail system. And Snow Canyon High School might be or the shack might be somewhere where somebody wants to take a scooter, and those are in St. George. So is there a way to geofence it to allow us to go outside of our city boundary to a point?
Yes. So right now, St. George has its own city boundary, and then if we're allowed to provide service here within the city of Santa Clara as well, someone could go seamlessly between the two jurisdictions. Yes. Oh, and I should mention we met with Ivans last week as well.
Are they going to go through with it? Is Ivan's going to go through
They're going to be having a meeting next week on it.
next week?
Yeah.
Is there an age limit on who can use these scooters?
It's 18 plus, and that's
Is
across. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Do you keep it to 18 or do we see young kids driving them?
So 18 plus is our terms of service and what is required. We have onboarding education for users to, for example, make sure you're not riding on the sidewalk in separate areas, or make sure you're parking properly and not blocking the sidewalk or ADA ramps. And included in that is language as well on age.
Is there a way that if you have violators of that, they can be discouraged from use or something like that?
Absolutely. We have this in a lot of other cities where when we receive reports of something like this, a lot of times, we're able to track something down. And we've cited and fined accounts previously, and we have no problem taking bad users off of the platform because we don't want it to reflect the whole service. And I should include that's not just, an email or a phone number, because I know someone can just make another email. It also includes payment information.
So for the actual sites where they'll be located, do you get an agreement with each property owner where they'll be placed? Will it be kind of like over in St. George, like at their city downtown?
Yeah, so in cases of private property, for example, so I know, Dixie State being a different jurisdiction, technically, within St. George. So we have an agreement with Dixie State as well. The deployment points on here should be public right of way. So the agreement would be with the city. That said, if there are, other jurisdictions, or I know sometimes, like, for example, hotels, resorts, that sort of thing, we've done in other cities, separate agreements for those as well.
Okay, yeah, I just noticed several of the locations were in residential areas, So the deployment points are like somebody's house. So I was just curious how that would work.
So it would be on the sidewalk, maybe outside of that person's house.
Okay.
So that's still part of the right of way. But that said, again, this is just based off of the data that we've seen for folks who are requesting rides. These are not set in stone. So if there are deployment points where it's like, this might not be the best, and we actually think that this area would be better, we're completely amenable to that. And I should also, after this is, if we see after 2-3 weeks or something, that maybe, a couple of these deployment points just aren't working out, or either they're not getting ridership or we're hearing complaints or something like that. This is something that, because we have that W2 team, we can easily change and then educate our team on where to deploy.
And I think I would just add, we did have representatives from Ocotillo Springs, I believe, or is that Ocotillo Springs? And Arcadia and Paradise Village. So we're requesting scooters in those vacation rental areas. So we definitely want an access point pretty close to those. The closest right now is just north of Harmons. So maybe a bit of a jog for those people to come down and grab one. So that would definitely be an area we want to look at. And then, I would just be concerned with these ones in residential areas. If someone wants scooters out their front door, basically, that'd be something to look at for sure. And is that just something you go over with staff generally to make those decisions?
Yep, exactly. So with staff, as well as any local organizations, groups, that sort of thing that we want taking feedback from. We do this in every city, is taking that local feedback. So if there are suggestions for folks who we should be talking to ensure that this deployment plan makes sense and is agreeable, we're open to it.
Other questions, council? Matt, did you have time to go through the agreement?
Yeah, and actually I have a couple of questions and comments on this. One question I had is with multiple jurisdictions next to each other, and obviously you're going to have riders going from St. George to Santa Clara and back. How do you determine which jurisdiction is entitled to the payment based on a particular ride? Is it where the ride ends or where it begins?
So it would be where it begins. And the reasoning for that is just since we deployed the vehicle in that jurisdiction and I'll just doing that, then it would be where the ride starts.
Okay. And then one thing just for the council to be aware of, this is an exclusive agreement for the term. So they would have the exclusive right to provide the services described in the contract. And one of my questions is actually related to that. The service is described as micro-mobility transportation. And it's not really defined in the contract, and I'm curious how you define that. I mean, if somebody had electric skateboards that they wanted to deploy, I mean, what's your view on that? I'm curious.
So it's shared. So of course, if someone has their own private, electric skateboard, scooter, that sort of thing, go for it. But the definition, at least in our view and with St. George, is that it's through that shared micromobility product.
And that would apply then to like electric bikes or electric skateboards, or as long as it was a shared thing, you would consider that to be, you would have the exclusive rights to do that under this contract.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure the council understood that.
Is there a move to bring electric bikes?
So I think we're open to it. We've come out with a great pedal assist bike recently. And so, I haven't heard a ton yet from St. George with wanting that, but I think it's definitely something that we would be open to in the future. So, I would just ask all of you, of kind of what do you see the need is? I know that sometimes there's different uses of maybe longer rides with the bikes. So definitely something that we're considering as well. And I should note though that, in St. George with the definition, we only provide e-scooters at this time. So no electric skateboards or any of that. It's just scooters right now.
A follow-up question then that Brock kind of keyed me into here on the question of how those fees are determined. You said that it was based on where the scooter is deployed. Does that mean that every trip that scooter takes once it's deployed goes back to the city where it was deployed?
Not necessarily. So also A user could start their trip here and then end it in another jurisdiction. That said, though, we actually have a lot of these in other cities where we have neighboring cities, but also requirements on specific areas, maybe low-income areas, and other jurisdictions to deploy in as well. So because of this, we can create dashboards where we see live where all of the vehicles are due to the GPS on the scooter itself. So Auto's team would be monitoring that. To just make sure that, we're not going over our cap in another city or this city, or it's not getting too low. But it's in our best interest to keep rebalancing, because if we're seeing the usage, then we want to replenish those scooters as well.
So let me just make my question more specific. So let's say a scooter was deployed in Santa Clara, someone rode it to St. George and left it, and then someone else got on that scooter for a second ride in St. George. How would the fee for those rides be paid to the
Okay, yeah. So in that case, the first ride, so the ride from Santa Clara to St. George we would be remitting the fee, but not the other way around.
Okay.
But theoretically, you'd be replacing that scooter with another scooter, so it'd be available again for a Santa Clara ride.
Exactly,
Right.
yes.
Okay.
To Santa Clara.
Right.
Once it's used in Santa Clara, then it
Yeah, that sounds good. Okay, and then just, not really a question, but just to make the city council aware, there's a limitation of liability clause in the contract where the city is basically agreeing that Spin won't be liable for any damages that might happen because of the use of the scooters. So just something to be aware of.
So who is liable?
Well, potentially,
Is it gonna be us?
if someone has a problem and has an accident, they're going to go after anyone that they can, including the city, potentially. And so my next comment was going to be, we ought to make sure that our insurer is aware, if this is something that we want to do, just to make sure that there's potentially some coverage there as well. I assume that the limitation of liability in the contract is probably not something that they negotiate, because this is a form contract they probably provide to all the cities that they work with. And
I will say, it is the same language that St. George has.
yeah, I was going to say,
yeah.
it's probably the same everywhere. And, I think it's fine as long as we're aware that that's what's in here. So.
I'm surprised Sean Guzman, with the way he is on hold harmless agreements, let that stay in there.
Yeah.
maybe they had a hold harmless agreement on a separate.
This is the St. George's agreement
Yeah.
that we're looking at.
It does also require Spin to have insurance in case claims are made against Spin, but we would be limited in claims that we could make against Spin if there was some kind of an issue. So not that that's, a reason not to do this. I just wanted to make sure you're aware of it. So.
All right.
So maybe a question to the chief would be, if it's an underage rider on the scooter and an accident occurs and we are the vendor's liability insurance, are we the ones going to be, if we're not enforcing it, are we going to be the ones held liable? Maybe that's a question for you.
I would have to get back to you on that. I'm personally not a lawyer.
I mean, if we have an 18 age limit and there are younger riders and there is an accident, the younger rider gets hurt, and we're not enforcing that, and there is no way of enforcing it, it looks to me like we've got a serious concern.
So one way we can enforce is the verification via a driver's license, where when they create an account, they have to scan a driver's license, which goes through a age check before it allows them to ride. That is something we can implement.
So Matt, just quick question on that. Wouldn't the city have similar liabilities for our bike trails that we provide, for the swimming pool, for the, if an underage driver gets on our roads, and would we have kind of the similar exposure in those for liability reasons, or is this something that increases that?
Well, I would say probably, because all we're doing is allowing the use of the public right of way. And we're not taking on any responsibility to, to monitor the use or to administer the system or, repair the scooters or anything like that, So more likely than not, we would still have the normal protections that we have under the Governmental Immunity Act. So, and we would have our insurance coverage, which again, I just think we should make our insurer aware that we're potentially doing this, so that we ensure that we have coverage if we need it. So I don't know that it's a particular concern, but this is something new that we've never done before. So it's just something to keep in mind.
Any other questions or comments, Matt?
Nope.
Council?
I had one question just on the process, just the approval process. Because this is a private company contracting exclusively with the city, do we need to put this out to bid type thing? And are we, again, you guys have gone through the process with multiple cities, and I'm sure you're you're getting those contracts for a reason, but for our side, or would we need to post something that put out an RFP or something that said, hey, we're going to do this? And
yeah, that's a good question. In fact, Denny asked that question at the beginning of this. The answer is no, we don't need to do an RFP. This is not for some kind of a procurement or an outlay of funds. You could do something like that if you wanted to see what other options are out there. The other thing that I think plays into this is the fact that Spin is already here. They're already serving St. George. And so it makes sense for us to consider Spin without necessarily considering another option. But again, this doesn't fall under procurement requirements, so there's no RFP required or anything like that.
when it makes sense, you don't want to get to St. George.
So the contract, if I remember correctly, is for 2 years, and it's automatically renewable for up to 3 years after that. So essentially, you'd have an initial 2-year time period, and then if you didn't cancel the contract at the end of that first 2 years, then it would automatically renew for 3 more years for a total of 5. So.
And this is the same language that we have with St. George. And, we have regular check-ins with Mark, and Sean actually saw them this afternoon to discuss, maybe operational changes or things that we're doing well, things that we need to improve on. And so I'd want to make sure that we're checking in, not just at the 1 year, not just at the 2 year, but that's an ongoing thing as well.
Just curious, how far into your contract are you with St. George City?
About a year.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it was years flown by. Yeah. So September last year.
Would you have a problem if we match the contract times to St. George's?
No, absolutely not. Actually, that's what Washington City did.
So they would all mirror each other's.
Exactly. So the same timeline. So, and honestly, after speaking with Rusty in Washington City, I actually agree with that. And I think that makes most sense at this point. That makes it easier for everyone.
So I have another question. Matt, you had mentioned how micromobility service is defined. Does this agreement affect our current providers in Santa Clara? I know Arcadia rents out, and we have Rampage down in Santa Clara Drive that rents out bikes. Is this going to mess with any of their businesses? It says right here that it's a scooter. It's an electric scooter share. But
Yeah.
that wasn't what we just spoken about. It was anything that's a share service.
So the difference between this and those, in my view, is that with those other providers, we're not giving them a franchise to our rights of way. We're essentially agreeing. The reason we would have this agreement with Spin is so that they could utilize our rights of way for placement of the scooters. Having those scooters located in the areas that have been identified. Those other services, as I understand it, don't require that because they have their own property that they rent from, and and people just take them and ride on the public rights of way, which they're entitled to do. So in my mind, that's the difference, is that they're essentially staging their business on public rights of way. And so that's what the exclusive right is that's described in the contract.
Okay, but we're not outlying those other rental companies.
I mean, another way to look at it is those other rental companies are not using our rights of way. They're just renting bikes, and the public is using them on our rights of way.
Mhm.
So
If they wanted to stage them inside the right of way, other than on their private property, they'd have to come do a similar type agreement.
yeah,
Okay,
And just
Yeah.
from our view, we see it as two separate. So
okay,
not
good.
being in the same sphere. Yeah.
Any other questions, council?
I see the scooters in Santa Clara occasionally. They do make it over here for sure. And I've also seen their service vehicles in St. George, and I like the new stations you have for charging, and they look really nice in St. George.
Let me ask Chief Flowers, any concerns with scooters in Santa Clara, Chief?
Not really for me. I don't see a problem with them. It's all up to the rider any more than we are about bicycles. I sometimes get a little concerned with the speed of them, but I don't see a problem. I think they're kind of nice, actually. So I don't see a problem with them at all.
Thanks, sir.
Okay.
Okay, council. Well, you've heard the presentation. Ask questions. Anybody wanting to consider a motion or need additional discussion?
I'm happy to make a motion. So I move that.
And I would just say, Matt, the agreement we have is a copy of the St. George agreement. So we'd be approving the agreement with all the same terms, but it would be modified or subject to legal review and changing of the names and stuff like that, the dates.
yeah. If you want to just do it subject to legal review, I think that covers us, Jarrett.
Okay. All right. So I move that we approve the cooperative agreement between Santa Clara, Utah and Spin for the operation of electric scooters in the public right of way as presented and subject to legal review.
Second.
Got a motion by Jarrett and a second by Lena. Any question on the motion?
Just location wise, the map that you've got, really a serious concern that Jarrett brought up is the vacation rentals will be where you're going to want to use and it's not on that map as a location for the scooters.
I would just suggest that they meet with the staff, meet with Brock and we can tweak the map.
Right.
To maybe eliminate some of the residential areas and incorporate the short-term rental and some of the new commercial up in the northern area and as well in the south here. The map doesn't go all the way down in the south to, my house isn't even on there for heck's sake. So
That's the only concern. I mean, not a concern, just something I think would be advantageous to you.
Yeah, and any feedback you can provide, I'll take it. We'd appreciate it.
And from a comfort level, happy to make sure that we don't sign any contracts until that deployment map, everyone feels good about it as well. So
Awesome.
want to make sure we have that approval.
Any other questions on the motion, council? We are getting money out of this. Let's do roll call. Ben,
Aye.
Lena,
Aye.
Jarrett,
Aye.
Benny,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, guys. Appreciate you being here.
Of course.
Thank you.
I just,
I was going to make you bring one so Wendell could try it.
All right,
You
next
got one in
time
the
we'll
truck?
bring helmets.
before we move on, Mayor, just one
I don't
question
think
for
you want to
them.
be sued.
Would you like me to make some revisions to the contract based on what we've talked about?
That would be
tonight and
great.
Send them to you?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that would be awesome. And then I'll loop you in with our team and we'll go from there.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome.
And one thing we did forget to mention, we do offer helmets, free helmets to anybody that wants.
At events, and we'll ship them to folks. We'll ship them to folks' address as well. So for free. So,
Great.
well, thank you for your time this evening, and looking forward to partner with all of you. I will make sure that all of you have my information and Otto's information, so that in the future, if you have any questions or concerns locally, that you have someone directly to reach out to. So we appreciate it.
Thank you,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Swiss days, we should have a race, scooter race.
Swiss days race.
Swiss days scooter race. Does Wendell want to give him their, his
That's all we
address now for
need.
the helmet?
I'll go down on a scooter instead of.
We could die.
Let's put scooters on the fire engine, just in case.
Okay, before this gets out of hand, item C2. Consider approving a proposed code amendment to the Santa Clara City Code, Title 17, Section 17.68.40, Plan Development Standards and Requirements, to add a section to establish density equivalents for assisted living facilities and approve ordinance 2021-09. Mr. Nicholson's not here. Is he on Zoom?
He is not. He is,
Are you doing this?
I don't know if, I don't believe Jim's on. I don't know if Jim's on, but this is just a temporary ordinance. As it states in the write-up by Bob. There was a temporary ordinance done back when we had some other projects coming through. And so we're just bringing this back to move it from being a temporary ordinance into a permanent ordinance for Santa Clara City. If you remember back then, it stated how whether it had a kitchen or not a kitchen, how that was coded to whether it constituted being a single family equivalent or not. And so
We've been using this as a temporary measure and now we're making it permanent.
that's correct. So
Planning Commission recommended approval. Council, any questions on this? We had quite a discussion when it was first put in.
I was gonna say that I think we went off the lower, went between 2, 1 to 2 up to 4. And I think we settled on if it's not a kitchen where it's a 2 to 1 ratio. So I think it's, from everything I saw, it's just like we discussed.
that's correct. If they have cooking facilities inside their unit, they're considered the same as the equivalent of a single residential unit. Otherwise, if they do not, and they use a part of the, central kitchen or dining area, then that's 2 units to equal 1 residential unit.
Okay, is there any question on this issue for staff? If not, I would look for a motion.
I move that we approve ordinance. Once I get to it. The amendment to our assisted living ordinance. It's reading it. Title 17, zoning chapter 68, 17.68, plan development standards and requirements. Move that we approve the
And
change.
ordinance 2021-09.
That's the one.
Okay, I've got a motion.
Second.
A motion by Denny and a second by Wendell to approve the proposed code amendment to the Santa Clara City Code and ordinance 2021-09. Is there any question on that motion? This is an ordinance. Roll call vote. Wendell?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Ben?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you, council. Item number 3, consider approval of preliminary and final plat for Arrowhead Estates subdivision located at approximately 2451 Arrowhead Trail Drive, and consider approval of an exception to the subdivision standards for reduced width of the parcel. Curtis Anderson is the applicant, presented by Bob Nicholson, who's somewhere in Montana.
Yeah. So with this one, this Mr. Anderson's plat originally came before as a 4-lot subdivision. And then when it went to, there are some revisions done, and it was never actually brought back as a 3-lot subdivision due to the revisions and the acreage. They couldn't get 4 lots in there, so it was 3. And so they're ready to go. They never came back and got the final approval changing from a 4-lot to a 3-lot due to the acreage reduction. So it went back through Planning Commission in August and received approval, recommended approval of that. And the one variance is the frontage along Arrowhead does not meet the zoning requirement, so it's reduced, and that's the the exception that is being asked for.
And the length of, or the width of the driveway.
Yeah, width of the
That's correct.
stem.
So tell me again the driveway situation.
There's a flag lot. There's a map.
Yeah, I've got the map and it shows a private driveway.
Yeah, that's a flag lot that goes back to lot number 3 in the back. Typically, that would be 25 feet wide.
Right.
Since it's only serving one lot, the planning commission felt like it was okay to go to the 20 feet and leave the additional frontage on Arrowhead for the others since they're fairly short
Okay.
anyway.
So as far as emergency vehicles getting in and turning around, they'd have to set their home in a situation where they could actually access and get into that.
Yeah, I think the fire hydrant is located out on Arrowhead Trail, so they wouldn't actually be pulling the fire truck down into that's correct, Chief? So they're not gonna be going down in there that's wide enough for for an ambulance to get in there for that type of use, but they'd be doing the fire service from out on Arrowhead Trail.
Yeah, we looked at the hydrant location. It's across the street. And so, yeah, we'd stage out on Arrowhead Trail and then pull our lines in.
And just while you got the mic, you're okay with the proposed exceptions, Chief?
I believe so. Yeah, we've looked at it pretty good.
I guess you can access a fire truck down that lane if you have to get back to a home fire.
It's a minimum of 20 feet, which is a requirement for a fire access lane.
Okay.
Any other questions, council?
Matt, do you want the recommendation to note the code exceptions?
Yeah, I think it should.
Okay.
Okay. There's no other questions. I would look for a motion.
Okay, well, I can make it. I'll move that we consider approval of the preliminary and final plat for Arrowhead Estates subdivision at approximately 2451 Arrowhead Trail, with the exception to 16.24.030 number or letter B, which is the lot dimensions, allowing them to go 70 feet wide instead of 80. And letter E, allowing them to go 20 feet wide on a flag lot instead of 25.
I will second.
Motion by Lena, second by Jarrett. Any question on that motion, council? Let's see, let's do a roll call vote. Ben?
Aye.
Lena?
Aye.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Lena, for the detailed motion. When are you gonna start, Curtis? So let it be done. Okay. Number 4, consider approving a request for lot split for property located at 2789 Santa Clara Drive. Reggie Gates is the applicant, and I can be his representative. Bob still hasn't called in from Montana, right?
No.
Okay, this is a lot that is just down the street, council. Travis Gates and has this property. They'd like to split it. If you go to the map, Bob or Brock, you can see the proposed lot split. There'd be one lot that would be fronting Santa Clara Drive, one lot that would be fronting Vineyard Drive. The existing home is on the lot that fronts Santa Clara Drive, and a proposed new home would be built on the lot that fronts Vineyard Drive. Planning Commission recommended approval. This is contingent upon him paying for the curb and gutter and sidewalk or posting a bond for that. I think he's just going to bring in the cash is what I understand, or Dustin. So, and he's going to dedicate the easement on Vineyard Drive as well as part of that. So
Both Vineyard and Santa Clara, is that what we say?
yeah, I'll go back and check Santa Clara. I want to say Santa Clara's already, I think the easement's already in place there, but we'll verify and make sure he dedicates the easements along both those streets. There's an existing power line that's in the back that we can double check the easement on that as well.
I will make a note. It did come to historical or commission, and they reviewed both the site and the drawings for the home to be built, and they recommended approval of both.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Any questions on this one? No questions. I'd look for a motion.
I'll make that motion. Just pulling it up. I'll make the motion that we approve the lot split for property located at 2789 Santa Clara Drive as presented.
I'll second.
Got a motion by Ben and a second by Jarrett to approve the lot split 2789 Santa Clara Drive as presented. Any question on the motion? Roll call, Ben,
Aye.
Lena,
Aye.
Jarrett,
Aye.
Denny,
Aye.
Wendell.
Aye.
Thank you, council.
It's 161 feet, Mayor, of curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
We keep
So
little
keep
chunks,
chipping
little
away
chunks,
little by little.
little chunks.
That's what I was looking at to
all
see
get
how much of face there.
Okay, item number 5, consider approval of an amended project plan and a planned development residential zone for Black Desert Golf Course located at the north side of Pioneer Parkway and just west of the present Entrada development. Approve ordinance 2021-10. Matt?
Okay, so this is actually an item that came before the Planning Commission about a year ago. And the Planning Commission recommended approval unanimously. This is to allow Black Desert to go forward with their plans for the golf course in their project. At the same time that the Planning Commission recommended this approval, what this approval will do is essentially approve the portion of their project plan for the golf course, and it then becomes part of their PDR zoning. What the Planning Commission also did at the time that it recommended approval of this item is it granted a conditional use permit for the golf course use, which is also required. That conditional use permit was granted, conditioned on the city council giving this final approval to the zone change. So that conditional use permit isn't before you. I just wanted to make you aware that will sort of spring into existence once you give this approval. And there were some conditions, just for your information, that the Planning Commission set on that conditional use permit. And essentially, I'll just read them. They're pretty straightforward. The first one was that the use would not create obnoxious dust beyond the property line, that Red Mountain Drive had to be paved before before a permit would be issued for the maintenance building for the golf course, and that no excavation should take place in Area 6. I think you're familiar with Area 6 is that area on the south end with all of the lava that the developer has said is not going to be disturbed. So those were the conditions that were already set. Those are in place. What you didn't do tonight won't change that, other than it will approve this, make it a part of the PDR zoning, and that conditional use permit that was previously granted will go into effect. Also, at our last meeting, you'll recall that you did approve the development agreement for Black Desert. We informed the developer that this needed to be done before we could finalize that. And so once you do this, we will be able to gather the signatures on that development agreement and go ahead and record it. So, and that's all I have, unless I see Patrick's here, unless he has something he'd like to add, or if the city council has any questions.
A minor thing, but one thing that I'd like to add is
Need your name and address for
Sorry.
the record, Pat.
Patrick Manning, applicant, Black Desert. Small item, but if the council were so inclined to, if they were to approve this, a grading permit for the golf course has already been applied for, approved, and submitted. When we received that, I immediately called mayor and said, I realize we can't, even though we have a grading permit, that it shouldn't have been given out. quite yet. So I'm just hoping that we don't have to go through that process again because it's the same exact thing. That's all.
I think if council approves it, the grading permit met the requirements, so you'd be good to go.
Yeah, I don't see any issues with that either.
Don't
Thanks.
leave. I have a question. On the picture that the rendering we got, I have a question on what's identified as the distribution center. What is that?
The maintenance facility, distribution of sod, sand.
So is there going to be a building there?
It's a shed. I mean, it's a metal building behind the substation and bermed.
Okay. So will you see it from the road, or is it lower right? I know there's
There's a bowl down there. I can't promise you wouldn't see it at all, but we're berming and landscaping. And if you do see it, you'd see it through the substation.
Okay.
Walmart's doing a mini one on the west side.
Yeah,
That's what I thought first time I saw it.
Yeah, that was just my concern, what the view will be for those residents that are looking that direction from their homes.
It's gonna be
And this,
the best possible thing that they ever could have out there, in my opinion, as far as golf course and open space. So I think just because it's preserving a lot of area.
So until the resort's ready, are you going to have it open to the public?
The golf course
Mhm.
or the maintenance facility?
The golf course. I don't know. I could come towards.
That's to be determined. I would say it's 99% certain that it'll be open to the public for a couple of years as we get more project built out.
Okay.
Also, just so you know, the maintenance facility is more exposed on the north side than the south side. And that's our most expensive lots that we're putting in as along the golf course right there. And those people are going to pass the maintenance facility. So we're not talking about an ugly thing.
is your golf course designer going to be able to complete the job? I understand he's got cancer.
Yes, I think he's beaten it. And also Phil Smith, architect, is handling a lot of it. He was out there today making the last couple tweaks to Santa Clara's routing.
Any other questions for the applicant, council? Thank you, Patrick.
Mayor, in any motion, do we need to include anything on the grading permit, or is it okay?
I think we can add something in the motion, but the grading permit, as long as it was submitted in the required format, it's pretty much
Yeah, I mean, it's an administrative
Yeah.
approval, so
I don't know
if
that
you
it has
want
to
to,
be.
you
in
can
the-
include something, but you don't have to.
Well, I would make the motion that we approve the amended project plan in a planned development residential zone for Black Desert Golf Course located at the north side of Pioneer Parkway, just west of the present Entrada development, and approve ordinance 2021-10.
Second.
Got a motion by Ben, a second by Lena to approve the amended project plan for the planned development residential zone for Black Desert Golf Course located on the north side of Pioneer Parkway and just west of the present Entrada development. Approve ordinance 2021-10. Any question on that motion?
Yeah, Ben, would you mind including the PC recommendations? They had that part on dust control, paving roads.
Actually, those are actually part of the conditional use permit that was already
Are they?
issued.
Okay.
So yeah, those are already covered.
Okay, good.
Great. Any other questions, council? Okay, this is an ordinance. Roll call. Ben?
Aye.
Lena?
Hi.
Jarrett?
Aye.
Denny?
Aye.
Wendell?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Patrick. Number 6, consider approval of an encroachment agreement between Santa Clara City and Mark Sanders. Brock?
So I'm actually going to recommend that we table this item. We spoke with Mr. Sanders' wife after the meeting when he came and spoke. We let them know that Matt would be sending them the agreement, and they could review that and let us know when they were done with their review and going forward. We have not heard from them. Matt emailed them twice, I believe this week, asking for where they're at and to bring back to the city their plans for what they wanted to do, and we haven't heard back from them. So, and where they feel with the agreement and if they're comfortable signing that. So we would recommend that we table this item until we hear back
Till we
from the
get the
Sanders.
documents.
Mhm.
Okay.
So we told them at the time we could move as quickly as this week as they wanted to move forward. And so we put it on here, hopeful that they would, but we didn't hear from them the last 2 days. So
All right.
So do you need a motion?
Need a motion to table item number 6.
So
until-
moved.
Second.
Got a motion to table item 6 until they're ready to have it heard. Any question on that motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, council. Number 6, mayor and council reports. Before we start that, were you guys here for any specific item? Just learning?
She's our candidate.
Oh, is this Chris?
She wants to be one of
Well,
us.
come up here and introduce yourself, please, because I didn't know who you were.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Krista Hinton and here to observe, here to learn and running for city council. So excited. I know several of you, but would love to meet you, Mayor. And I met Jarrett a few weeks ago, so that was great.
Well, it's a
Thank you.
pleasure meeting you, Kristen.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, mayor and council reports. Ben?
I've got a couple. I called Brock. I just mainly just for information because you may get a call when people get their property taxes that they're more. And so I had understood it that the state had froze the rate across the board, but they had not. What had happened is about 4 years ago, the state school board froze the rate. So I did which sounds great. But it's actually when you hear, oh, we're going to freeze the power rate, that sounds great. We're going to hold the power. It's not a good thing for taxes. And what happens, and if you look, Brock and I spent a half hour yesterday just kind of looking, and in 2007 we had a rate of 0.0015, let's say. And when property values decline, they adjust the rate just so property taxes are similar. So cities can do their work. And well, by freezing the rate, when property values go up, that rate doesn't adjust down, it stays up. So the state school board can have a lot of money this year, but that does not trickle down to cities and things like that. So you may be questioned about that because we're seeing, on lots and things like that, we're seeing an increase fairly significant. 10%, 15%, and looking at what comes to the city, it's pretty minimal what that difference is. So it's literally just in the rate freeze of the state school board. The interesting thing as I've kind of researched it, I can't find anywhere where there was truth in taxation in this, where there was a public hearing, where and I may be totally wrong. It was done about 4 years ago, but I understood all that had to be done, and I may be totally wrong, but I just thought that was an interesting fact, kind of what's going on. But just if you do get a call wondering why their taxes are fairly higher, we're not going to see that in the city, and that's what happens. So moving forward, as we see these things, there's groups out there that want to freeze the rate. I don't think that's a positive thing when you're trying to maintain or at least keep up somewhat, because if it gets froze, if that was across the board, your property taxes probably would have doubled on that. And that's about what it did with that little piece that got froze. So anyway, that's what I had on that. I'm going to do a little more digging into it and just see if I can find, for me, obviously with taxes, I like to at least know a little bit on it. The other thing is, and I was trying to pull that up, the Water Conservancy has I want to say it's September. I was trying to open the email and I couldn't get it open, but they have an RSVP date. I want to say it's next week, just kind of an open house. I don't know if
There's a candidate open house. that what you're talking about?
I don't think that was it. I think, but I couldn't get it. Anyway, they've got some meetings coming up and just with water and explaining sources and things like that. So obviously it's on everybody's mind, but
I think that's it. It's on Tuesday, August 31st, and again on Thursday, September 2nd. It's set up specifically for public candidates and officials. They're going to talk about the overview of the water sources, existing infrastructure, treatment, conservation, municipal contracts, revenue, and current projects, including Lake Powell Pipeline. Experts be available to answer questions.
that would be good. Yeah, and that's it. And I think mainly, like I said, the questions I've got is with this reservoir going in and the Water Conservancy set up to where we all operate as one, trying to resource our water and the best use of it. And it feels like there's some, everyone's kind of, not everyone, but I have questions on how that's going to be managed. Is that all going to run through? And I think those questions have been asked, but
But there's still a lot of discussion yet to come on that.
Yeah.
On that particular issue there. There's meetings going on every week. I think you guys, the TAC is meeting weekly on the water conservation ordinance and the guidelines that they want to incorporate that way. That'll be coming to the council at some point in time, hopefully sooner than later, for approval. They're trying to come up with one ordinance that all the communities can adopt. So if you're a landscaper and you're working in the area, you don't have to know 7 different ordinances to work in the communities. Their overall goal is to increase water conservation and make our existing water sources go farther. And it's primarily going to impact new development right now, but it's not only the outside irrigation, but some inside construction requirements inside the home as well to try and promote water conservation. So we'll see more of that coming in the upcoming months. There's also a lot of meetings going on with the cities and the water district and how we're going to try and utilize the wet water that we have more efficiently with secondary system and reuse. And there's a lot to come. I think it's going to be a busy fall when it comes to water.
Yeah.
The way things are going right now. But Kristen, did you get that notice on that meeting? Okay. Just making sure. Okay. Anything else, Ben?
the only thing is just to comment on the email Bob had sent about de-annexation. My personal opinion is I would tread with caution on that. I hate to, and maybe we can annex. Like I said, we're limited on resource, land and things like that. Maybe we don't, but I think obviously that's for discussions for later dates. But I know the lava flow down here was one time in Santa Clara and moved over to St. George. So I think it's land. We're moving those directions. So I'd hate to.
And I don't think there's any movement at all to release any private property.
Okay.
But we may, and there's a discussion on TRC tomorrow. They're putting together, the staff's putting together some documents that they can come back to council and review with council, and then let council make the decision whether we move forward and de-annex a portion of the BLM South Hills, particularly the stuff that's in the sensitive environmental areas where it's hard to impossible to do anything anyway. But we're still accountable for providing, police and fire service out there. And then there's an opportunity maybe to annex some other BLM property that's associated with the reservoir you talk about. They're going to bring all that back to you at the same time.
Okay. I was going to say, if we're looking at that, and that's kind of, maybe there's a trade, maybe there's some ways to, before we can get property that's a better use for the city. And so, okay, that's perfect.
And those are on the tentative agenda for next week's work meeting, those discussions. So.
Cool. Anything else?
Just, I talked to Brock on the maintenance of our building. We've got some pumps and some treatment and things. The system we've got that cools and heats this building is geothermal. It does require maintenance, the cooling tower. does require chemical, otherwise it scales up, it rusts, it's, you know, you buy one of those, it's 10 grand or 15, 20 grand, depending on the size. So I do think we need to look at a maintenance type agreement in maintaining the system. I think we've had it to where staff has been doing that, but we really need to look at a mechanical company or somebody. CCI, there's a couple of companies local that have maintenance, that, you know, take care of Dixie Tech and a few of these, but I do think it's in the best interest of the city and our system and the longevity and cost to do that. So I told Brock I'd get some information and get that back.
Brock, what's Corey gone? Who's doing the building?
Scott's overseeing the building and working closely with Brooksby. There's some of this, they've had some discussions about that room. Brooksby deals with that at Pineview High School. So he's aware of that and how it works, but so they've been in some discussions with that. So, and Brooksby knows a little bit of that where he can do some of that, but we still, as we talked with Ben, having somebody who comes in on a regular basis just to make sure things are operating right, that things are, you know, being done right. So we can make sure that lasts longer some of the issues we talked to, they're just coming up on their end of their life. And maybe we could have done some, maybe previously more maintenance on them, maybe we extended them, but we're seeing a few issues pop up with that system right now.
All right, thank you. Anything else, Ben?
That's all.
Lena?
All right, I've got a few. I'm going to report back on our free swim day. I did hear back from Timmy, and we actually had both children, adults, and seniors who did go over to our pool or to the pool and use it. However, we only had approximately 31 total swimmers that day. That didn't include the other adults who went to just watch and observe. Those were actual swimmers. So we didn't have a huge turnout, but I think we got an opportunity to make it bigger next year. We'll do some different advertising and some other things. Heritage Commission, I haven't heard back from all of the individuals I was asked to call. I've left messages, just haven't heard back. I did talk to Mimi McKenna at your request. They've got some changes in their house, so she would prefer to do heritage instead of planning. And I can update you on
I was afraid of that.
those changes, but she would prefer to do that. So my recommendation would be that we appoint her as the alternate member on Heritage. And then if we end up needing another one, I'll come back.
Okay.
LPC was held the same Monday that we were in UAMP's meetings. So I was trying to do a little bit of double duty. It was a little hard, but I can give you a heads up on where we are. They've asked us to register for the convention, which is next month. I don't know if we've done that, but
We haven't. I personally haven't seen an agenda.
it's on the website.
Is it?
I can-
Usually I get an email, but I haven't.
Yeah,
seen, so,
I've got a hard copy I can give to you too.
well, I'll go find it. We just need from council who's going. We have a block of rooms reserved. I believe Debbie's already taken care of that. We just need to know who's going, and then if there's the breakout sessions, not the breakout sessions, but the excursions, I'll call them those. If there's any that you want to do, we just need to know so we can get you registered for that. So
September 29th to October 1st are the 3 dates. And there is a recorder session on Thursday. Yeah.
So we have the block of rooms, I believe are reserved, checking in on Tuesday and checking out on Friday. So.
And then they did ask us to make sure that right now we're reaching out to our local legislators, which I know we've already contacted them, and I think we have a date arranged, if I
I believe
remember.
October 27th, I believe is when Representative Snow and Ipsen will be here.
And then they are putting into place some action plans for some working groups that they've established. There are 2 current existing working groups. One is the Lovelace and Lee Task Force, which is the police and kind of group. And then another one is a homelessness group. They are setting up 3 new groups. One is for drought, one is for fireworks, and one is for short-term rentals and tourism tax. Brock, I don't know if you're interested, but I have been assigned to the short-term rental and tourism tax working group. So we'll have some representation on that group. And if you want to take one of the others, you could certainly do so. And then they did send us out a survey they asked us to complete. And it was from the Council for Affordable Housing and the Land Use Task Force. And the survey was basically, would the city be interested in incentives or penalties per se related to zoning, the use of short-term rentals, and density as it relates in the transportation corridor? That probably doesn't impact us at all, unless they move it out of the transportation corridor and just start to try to control some density to deal with the affordable housing issue. But anyways, that survey was completed and sent back to them. That will be part of those sub-working groups that they're going to deal with, and that'll get reported back in November and December. And then they'll come up with some policy actions that will actually be in place for January. And then last, Christmas. Can we pursue it? When we were in California, just for those of you who are not there, we came up with this really great idea, and I will take ownership of it.
I'm there too.
But it was to have a Christmas, we'll call it a program, whatever you want to call it, here at Town Square across the way. And we would do it on December 6th because that's where that's when Christmas is really celebrated in Germany, because Santa Claus comes and visits all of the homes in Switzerland, in there. And we would have the mayor light a big tree. We'd have the mayor light a big tree, so we would need some help with getting lights for the tree. And we'd have brown bags to give the nuts and things to the kids and sing some German
I
songs.
want to light up a sycamore, Brad. The whole thing.
Every
The
branch.
whole,
Every
every
branch.
branch on the tree, I want to light.
So I'm bringing it up so the rest of you can give us your opinions of what you think. And then if you're all okay with it, then I'm going to maybe talk to Charlene, and we're going to, if we can do it, I'm going to put a group together and we're going to do it.
You okay with it?
I'm fine with
Like a Christmas celebration, just an afternoon, evening thing and light a tree?
it. Yeah. Everybody wear their masks.
And when we say light a tree, it's one of the big trees.
It's one of the, I want
You
a
want, they want
sycamore.
lit.
They did 100-foot yellow pine in, where were we at? Squaw Valley?
Valley.
They lit up 100-foot yellow pine. If they can light up 100-foot yellow pine, we can light up a sycamore.
Yeah.
And we'll use the new ladder truck Ivan's is getting.
Oh.
Or we'll borrow St. George's, one of the two.
Anybody have an opinion?
My wife thinks I'm Scrooge at Christmas time.
This is your chance to prove her wrong, Wendell. This can be your swan song, buddy.
That'd be a great time to change the music in the glockenspiel as well. I think we'd do it generally just December 1st, but maybe we hold it off and do it right then.
We could do the character dressing changes, change the
Yeah.
music. We can make it a town celebration one
We're gonna-
night.
Yeah, we're going to have Santa Claus come so he can pass out the Swiss Santa Claus.
Chris Kringle or whatever his
Yeah,
name
the
is.
schmallus or whatever they call it.
December 5th
Yeah.
or 6th.
That's the idea.
What day is it? Day of the week.
Sunday.
Oh, you are a bah humbug.
Huh?
Monday.
Monday. Perfect.
Perfect.
December 6th. I guess that's a yes. We're on.
Hey, more to come.
Okay, I'm going to run with it.
Anything else?
No, that was the end of my report.
Garrett?
Okay, I've got a couple things. One's for Brad. Ann Evans emailed me last week wondering where we are in our speed bumps and speed table in the Gubler parking lot on the west side. So I want to get an answer back to her.
Going to talk about that at the end of the council reports, but I'd be glad to talk about it now if you have a minute for me to talk.
Go ahead, Brad.
All right. I'm coming up here because I can't see this side for the computer monitor, so I want to be able to see all of you. March 3rd, we had a work meeting and we discussed the parking lot and we had some options at that time. We talked about a gate at the end of the one-way. We talked about tire shredders. We talked about speed tables. And after that meeting, the directors got together in Brock and we discussed it, and we didn't really feel 100% that the speed table would be effective. So we ran an experiment and we ordered some speed bumps that are the bolt down type speed bumps. We ordered a 5 mile an hour and we ordered a 2 mile an hour, and those are installed at Goobler now. So we were trying to find out, and so we could test them out and drive over them. And we found out that the 3 mile or the 3-inch, it's actually a 3-inch speed bump. It's reflectorized yellow and black, that it's very effective at slowing you down. You do have to slow down to, fairly slow. And our discussion was that the speed table would work on one end of the parking lot, but once they get over that, I think they'll speed up, and we don't feel that it'll stop the traffic going the wrong way. And I've been monitoring. We have a camera that I can see the west parking lot, and normally at the end of the day when the pickleball tournaments or the people are done playing, when it gets hot, we get a lot of one-way traffic going through there, and the speeds are fairly, I don't know exactly, but they look faster than 10 miles an hour that it's supposed to be. So what we would like to do is install and order some of those speed bumps and put a series of about 6 of them in there. So every so many feet they have to stop, slow down, hit the speed bump, and that'll work for both ways. The traffic coming in. So when people are getting out of their cars, getting ready to go to the tournaments, to and from the tournaments, that we could do that, and then not install the speed table at this time. We don't know that it would be effective, but if that wasn't effective and we weren't satisfied with the results, then we would go ahead and come and ask you if you wanted us to put the speed table in. So that's kind of where we're at. I know Ann's been calling us, and she's talked to Dustin, and she's talked to me, and I've told her that we're have a lot of projects going on with the irrigation conversion and things like that. But also on the second part of that, we've been doing some research trying to find an effective way to control the traffic in that parking area. So that's where we're at, and that's what we like to do. It's not very expensive. We buy them. We can install them in a day. We installed 2 last Friday there at both where next down where you come into the park, we did a 2-inch, and then down by the stop sign where the one-way ends, we did a 3-inch, and just to try them out. So we can put those in. They're also removable. We need to move them. We need to do slurry seal in there and striping. We can pull them up. They can do their work, come back, and we put them right down. So I think that's a good solution to try, and maybe defer the table for a little bit if that's agreeable to you.
I think one thing, and to add to Brad, in this discussion, this is going to slow down people speeding through there. It might be deter them, as it's going to be much more a nuisance to them to have to hit those speed bumps to going out the other way. Noel and Chief Flowers has talked about this before. There are still going to be those that are going to go out the wrong way. Just as people speed, people run stop signs. We're not going to stop them, regardless of what we do, short of a tire shredder, which, like, to me is against. It's a public park. I've never known of a tire shredder going into a public park. It just seems just odd to me. But it's not. There's still going to be those. Understand that Miss Evans is out there. She probably will videotape or camera every single person that goes out the wrong way. But we're doing everything I believe we can to try to make that what it is, to try to get people to do the one way and use it as they're supposed to. But there are going to be those who are just going to choose not to follow all the signage and things that we've done there to make that a one way. So
I was just going to say, I actually think the 3-inch bolt down is probably a more effective thing anyway than the speed table. So again, you can add to them, you can put them on both ends. So it'll, for everything Brad said, I think that's a win-win for everybody.
We want to put in 4 more so they'll be spaced, so they can't speed up. So if they speed up, then they have to slow down and almost stop, go over the bump, speed up, slow down, go over the bump. So, we're hoping to discourage people from going the wrong way in there.
And I didn't.
We can't stop at 100%, but I think this is,
Do they go the full width?
they come in increments, so you can make them as long as you want. They come in 6 foot, sections and
But is it your intention to just hit the drive area or go into the parking stall area or?
we can go all the way across. I believe, this is what I think, if they're going the wrong way, they'll try to go around them through the stripe, so we can extend those and turn them into the area where the parking is, but we don't want to put them in the ADA ramp area,
Our intention is to go curb to curb.
Curb to
Right.
curb.
Curb to curb. So you're not going to be able to just whip around it. That would be curb to curb. But not in the ADA area.
Before we install a whole bunch in there, could maybe we just try 2 on each end?
They're there now.
All right.
They're there
You
now.
could try 'em. Yeah.
I thought you only had 3-inch on one
I
end.
have the 3-inch on one end and 2 on the other.
Okay.
And then the 3 inches right before you get to the stop sign to kind of wake you up a little bit before you get there.
I'll go give it a try tonight.
All right.
40 miles an hour.
Backwards. Wrong way.
So anyway, that's where we're at with that, Jared.
Okay. Have your crews driven over them with your vehicles and has it been okay?
Yeah, I've tried them. We've tried them. It works out fine, but we do have to, come to a very slow speed to go over them safely.
Okay, good. Well, that sounds great, for sure. Okay, and then I'm not sure who can answer this question for me, but Mayor had mentioned that there might come a point where we're limited on how much water residents can get, and it was like 147,000 gallons, right? So I went back on my utility bill for the last 12 months, and our utility bill is just a number. So I was wondering what that number means. So for example, my number for the last 12 months was 330 for my meter. Does that mean we use 330,000 gallons? We've used 33,000 gallons. If it's 330 on the bill, you add 2 zeros to it. Okay.
Well, it'd be for the year though.
It was for a year. It was for 12 months. So
No,
is
it'd be
it,
extremely low for a year.
Yeah, it seems
I
way
think
low.
If it's per thousand, that'd be 330,000.
yeah, if it's per thousand, it'd be 330,000.
Justin needs to talk in the mic.
Okay.
You're using twice as much as you're gonna get.
Yeah, so I think that everyone should really look at that because I have a smart sprinkler system and I don't have a ton of turf and I have a lot of trees, but so that would be a major hit, I think, for almost everyone.
Yeah, so the district's current is going to 36,000 gallons a month. That's what they're proposing right now. And then anything for every 1,000 over that 36,000 you use, you would get hit with a surcharge. Right now, they're talking about $1 per 1,000 surcharge. But the ultimate goal is to get down into the teens. I don't know the exact number, but it's down to wherever you take that number that the mayor said and divide it by 12. But that's the number they're looking to get to per household, which has a.
So the way this works, just so everybody's clear, it's lot reduction to get single family residents down into the teens on water usage.
House reduction.
It's house reduction, but it ultimately, if you go through the Vegas, the desert, bigger cities, zero setbacks. I mean, it's zero escape, things like that, but it does reduce building lots significantly is how they get there. So just.
There are some cautions too. You've got to, as a city, you've got to make sure that you're covering your bonding and your expense up front. I mean, you may reduce it down to a point where you can't cover your own expenses. So you've got to make sure you've got the usage that will pay back what you've got out. So
It's going to be a balance. I think everybody's aware of it. That's where they would like to see it go, is that 0.55 acre feet per household. Right now we're at 0.89. So it's a fairly dramatic reduction going forward.
The northern counties on the same.
Okay, that'll be something to watch for sure. And then just a quick one for our YouTube channel. Christelle, I had a resident that was having trouble finding our meetings. And so I looked, and I think they were looking at the playlist for City Council Live. And it doesn't have a lot of the recent meetings in there. So maybe we just need to either get rid of that playlist or keep it updated, I guess. That's it says it was last
Just on-
updated on June 11th. So any meeting since then isn't in that playlist. It's like that's why they were confused.
Okay, I'll take a look at that. Thank you.
Okay. That's all I have.
Benny?
Nothing.
Wendell?
Nothing.
You two are quiet. There was a, we're old. I'm old too. There was a meeting of the Transportation Executive Council for the MPO. Not a lot of stuff happening on the west side, but there are plans for 3 new signals on Dixie Drive. The Sunbrook Drive is going to be awarded fairly soon. There's also plans for one at Canyon View Drive and Skyrocket Drive. So if you use Dixie Drive to commute like me, there's 3 new signals in the way coming soon to a place near you. But they did approve the transportation plan. There's not a lot on there that impacts Santa Clara. But those 3 signals will impact our residents for sure. We had a good conference at UAMPS. Those that went to UAMPS, I think it was a good conference. There was a lot of good information presented. If you want to know about green hydrogen, talk to Gary. But it was overall, it was a good conference. It was getting fairly smoky, and the fires got nothing but closer since we left. I know they're looking at losing cabins around the lake now. So that fire was impressive when we were there, looking at some of the California video.
I saw it in Idaho.
The smoke?
It was impressive up there.
The fire itself, that caldera fire, it was shooting flames 1,000 feet in the air and had its own mushroom cloud just associated with that fire. It was impressive. So anyways, doesn't sound like the smoke's going to clear out very soon at all, but I think that's all that I had. Any key issues need to be brought up, staff, for the council?
I'll just add a couple, just to make you aware, if you've been on Santa Clara Drive and Gates Lane, all the pop outs are there and working that. The crews have all taken their turn. Unless that's already been said, sorry. Well, visiting with Matt. Also, if you go up by Circle Drive Fire Station, some work was done by Dustin's crew. Brad's crew, they've taken out those railroad ties that were leaning and tipping. They've taken them out, put in a block wall, and they're in a landscape and fix that up. So that's fixed up there. So a couple of things there that worked on this last week. So
right,
that's it.
Anything else?
Can I ask a question? Did we find a place to house the fire truck?
Yeah, our parade truck's sitting outside. Is that right?
Yeah, it's sitting outside behind the generator building.
It'll fit in my garage.
Hey,
If I can take it for a spin
We'll bring it over.
periodically.
I just don't want to have that truck degrade.
Yeah, we're,
What's the long-term plan?
any suggestions, options?
They told me every bay was full.
Yeah, everything we have is full and overflowing. We even have stuff parked in between in our fire station. So we don't have any spots indoors. So
Okay.
we're looking for options.
Okay, let's talk options, Brock.
We can get a temporary, just those RV covers. They're pretty inexpensive and as a short-term solution.
Ain't got no room for a fire or ladder truck either then.
Until we get another station.
That bumped down the priority list big time.
And we are pursuing that, I think, in October, right, with Gary Zabriskie and the
CIB.
CIB.
The station, yeah, we want to get on that list and yeah.
Okay.
Really, I don't know how long it is,
Not very
but
long.
if it's less
It'll
than,
fit in
if
that
it's less than
garage of
50
yours.
feet, it'll fit.
It's probably 40 feet.
That'll fit.
The parade truck?
It's pretty long.
Seems small.
It'll fit.
My wife's minivan used to be.
I'll store it on one condition. If I can move the stop sign from Old Farm to Benelli.
No.
Free rent. You can just put it there and I'll even move the stop sign.
Okay, anything else? Brock? Matt, anything?
I think maybe the only thing I would mention is, I don't know if everybody was aware about the change that the water district made in their, the way they collect their impact fees. Ben's nodding. He was the
Yeah.
one I was wondering if you knew, but yeah, so now instead of collecting those impact fees at the time of final plat, they're going to be collecting them at the time of building permit. So
This is the only time Matt would have a conflict of interest when he would call me. Hey, he was the legal counsel for that. So if it got deferred and then we sold the lot and it didn't get somewhere in there,
it's true.
I got a friendly
I
call
have
from
made a couple
Matt.
of friendly calls to Ben saying, "Hey Ben, you going to pay those impact
It's
fees?"
the
to
best
district?"
thing ever. Just put it up permit and let us pay.
No, I think it's a good change. It'll be good for the district, just to administer them. And I think it's good for, builders and developers. And it's something they don't have to worry about at the plat stage. So just thought I'd mention it.
Okay. Well, thanks, everybody. We don't have executive session tonight, right? I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll second.
Motion by Wendell, second by Jarrett. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you, everyone. Thank you, staff.